Alright, so right now I'm going to show you how to align your microscope with color illumination alignment as well as phase ring alignment. This is for our scopes in this class, the Zeiss scopes. First, you pull out your scope and you want to make sure that it was put away properly. That way, we can keep these scopes working for another couple years. There should be no lens in place. The stage should be all the way down, and the light obviously turned off because it's not plugged in. Anywho, I've got a slide right here. It's got a wax red X on it. This is going to be our kind of focusing slide, how we kind of set up the microscope. We use this slide. You can just use your wax pencil, put an X on it, and just leave it in your box or in your personal drawer for the rest of the semester to use. I'm going to put it right in there. I am going to turn the light on right down here. And then I'm going to put the 10x lens in place. And this one says 10x. At this point, I can raise the stage all the way up without worrying about the lens actually hitting the slide. You can only do this with the 10x lens. I'm going to look through the scope, and it's kind of all blurry right now and whatnot, but I am going to focus until I see that wax pencil in sharp focus. And now I see it in focus. It looks like a bunch of lines instead of one red X. I can see all the paint and everything on it. Anywho, now that that is in focus, I am going to close the lamp diaphragm, and then I'm going to, this is the lamp diaphragm right here, and I'm going to adjust the image. What I should see is the image of the lamp diaphragm and the image of the condenser. It looks like kind of like a hexagon, like a stop sign or something. It's a little bit out of focus, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this condenser adjustment knob right here to make that shape that's a kind of a hexagon. It's a light hexagon, and I'm going to sharpen it up a little bit. Now it's perfectly sharp. It's a little bit off center, that shape. When I closed it down, the shape was kind of off to the upper left for me. So I'm going to use these screws. They're located in the back of the condenser. There's one right here, and there's one on the other side right here. I'm going to use these screws to kind of move the shape until I get it right in the middle. And there it is. It's right in the middle now. I'm going to open up the lamp diaphragm, so instead of being a tiny little hexagon, now it's a much bigger hexagon. And I'm going to sharpen it up. It could be sharpened a little bit more, and I need to recenter it a little bit. I'm going to open it up a little bit more, and it looks pretty good. So at this point, the corners of my hexagon are touching the outside circle, the outside field of view. So I have a little bit of black edges, but the corners of that hexagon are touching my outer field of view, and it looks perfect. My red X is still in focus. So now I'm going to open it up all the way so that my entire field of view is illuminated. It looks good. At this point, since I'm in focus, that red X pencil is in focus at the 10x, I'm going to move into the 40x, and since these lenses are something called parfocal, I shouldn't worry about the lens hitting the glass, because anything in focus at the 10x for a parfocal microscope should also be more or less focused at the 40x. And it's very close. At this point, I'm going to use my fine adjustment, these fine adjustment knobs right here, to just fine adjust that image. It was almost perfect, but at the 40x and the 100x, sometimes you have to use the fine adjustment knobs. You should never use the coarse adjustment knobs at the 40 and the 100x. So it looks perfect. So let's check that shape again that we saw at the 10x. I'm going to close the lamp diaphragm. It's pretty centered. It's a little bit off. Sometimes that happens. I'm going to recenter it, I'm sorry. I'm going to focus it just a little bit more with this condenser adjustment knob, just like I did at the 10x. I'm going to open it up so the corners are touching the outside field of view. That looks good. And now I'm going to expand it all the way so my field of view is entirely illuminated. At this point, you have aligned the light so that it shines directly through the lenses, giving you the best chance possible at focusing your specimen. That's called color illumination. The next step, real quick, is to use something called a telescoping microscope to do phase ring alignment. So I'm going to take out one of these oculars, replace it with a telescoping lens. So we did all of that on condenser setting J. This thing moves around, this condenser. So that is for bright field microscopy on condenser setting J. Right now, we're going to move it to condenser setting 2. And I'll explain that more in class, but condenser 1 is for the 10x lens using phase contrast microscopy. Condenser setting 2 is for the 40x lens using phase contrast microscopy. And condenser setting 3 is for the 100x lens under phase contrast microscopy. When we use just bright field microscopy, again, we'll explain more of that in class, we use condenser setting J for all things bright field. But under phase contrast, it's either 1, 2, or 3. So I'm on the 40x lens. I moved my condenser setting to condenser setting 2. It's way here on the side. You see this line right there, and it says 2. Awesome. And so I'm going to look through this telescoping lens, and it looks kind of a little bit out of focus. So what I'm going to do is just use, sometimes they pull in and out this black piece, and sometimes they twist. And I'm going to just focus it, and I see a ring. I see actually 2 rings, a dark ring and a light ring, and they're a little bit offset from each other. The idea behind it here is I want them to be just right on top of each other. So I use this screw and this screw. They're called knurled screws. I can untwist this, and you'll see that it moves this way, and you'll see that this one moves this way. And I want to use these 2 screws to put the light ring on top of the dark ring. And there I go. They're perfectly in line. They look like a bullseye almost. At this point, I have aligned my phase rings, and that's called phase ring alignment. And now I'm ready and prepared to do phase contrast microscopy. In fact, my entire scope is aligned properly. So I can either go back to bright field by changing to condenser setting J, or if I have a specimen that I want to see under phase contrast microscopy, I can go to either condenser setting 1, 2, or 3, depending on the lens I'm using. So that's it, and that's how you, more or less, how I want to see you guys align your Zeiss scopes for our class. Cool, thank you.